It's funny, yeah.
He's doing all these things. Snoop is just really hilarious.
Snoop
like,
Dogg.
Like it's all. He performed.
So ain't nobody gonna perform for Donald Trump, huh? Which one of you jigaboo gonna be the first one to do it? I'm waiting. I'm gonna roast the out one of you Uncle Tom for doing it. Which one of you gonna do it first?
Snoop Dogg just got hit with a warning, and it didn't come from the cop, a diss track, or some rapper chasing clout. It came from Katt Williams, the one dude in the whole game who never bites his tongue for anybody. And this time, he's not up there doing jokes, not setting up a punchline, not trying to go viral with a funny clip. He's looking dead at Snoop and calling him out for what he sees as straight up selling out, or in Katt's own words, turning into a political dog. Katt didn't sugarcoat a thing. He dropped a line that made everybody's jaw tighten up, basically saying, your career down the road, folks might not even want to book you in Texas, Arizona, or California, and that would be fantastic. You can feel the sting in that. That's not playful shade, that's a warning shot. And if you know Katt, you know he doesn't talk like that just to trend on a timeline. He doesn't need gimmicks. When he speaks like that, it's because he feels like something real is on the line. Lately, it's like Katt's been on a full-blown rampage through Hollywood. He's been peeling the mask off fake smiles, exposing backroom deals, and dragging those quiet contracts that keep certain people nice and protected.
Or career down the road. People might not want to book you in Texas or Arizona or California.
Sir. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Let's let that.
He's already thrown big names under the spotlight. Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hewley, and he didn't flinch once doing it. Every time he touches a mic, another supposedly untouchable name ends up getting dragged into the light. For months now, it's felt like nobody is safe. But the second he shifted from those names and brought up Snoop Dogg, the whole energy changed. You could almost feel the air in the room get heavy, because Snoop isn't just another celebrity on a list. He's a symbol. This is the same man who went from Death Row Records to daytime TV, from the block to the boardroom, from Long Beach streets to sitting in rooms with presidents and power brokers. Snoop became the blueprint for how a street legend can flip his life and turn into a global brand without ever disappearing from the culture. And that's exactly why Katt's words hit like a brick. If he's willing to send what he calls a last warning to someone as iconic as Snoop,
Yeah. Get your life right. Stop worrying about mine. I'm cool. I'm together. Still a black man. Still 100% black.
then something serious must have shifted behind the scenes. The real question becomes, when did Snoop stop being the dog that barked for the people and start becoming the dog that plays nice for the system? And that's where things start to get real uncomfortable. To really feel how wild this shift is, you gotta remember who Snoop used to be. This is the same man who once stood on stage and flat out said, "I don't know political shreds. All you people from the federal government that ain't getting paid right now," that was old Snoop, the one who talked straight to regular folk, not through a PR filter. He clowned the whole system, not worked beside it. He sounded like the voice of everybody watching politics ruin their paycheck while the big dogs at the top stayed rich and untouched. But when Katt looks at the Snoop we see now, he doesn't recognize that man anymore. In Katt's eyes, Snoop Dogg ain't that same Snoop. Somewhere along the line, the dog that used to bark at the system started shaking hands with it. This isn't the dude who rolled with Pac, survived death row, and moved like a rebel with nothing to lose. Now we're looking at a Snoop who's doing cooking shows with Martha Stewart, smiling in insurance commercials, pushing pet food, doing kids content, and sliding into every family-friendly brand deal that comes with a clean image and a fat check.
I want to say this real quick, now on the political shit. All you people for the federal government that got not getting paid right now, ain't no fucking way in the world y'all can vote for Donald Trump when he come back up again. If y'all do vote for him, y'all some stupid motherfuckers.
On paper, it looks like growth. That's what people love to call leveling up. From the hood to Hollywood, from gangster rap to global icon. Most folks see that and say, he made it, that's the dream. But in Katt's eyes, that's not just growth, that's a trade. That's a man who once made the streets feel seen, now making the system feel safe. The same guy who used to rap about ducking the system is now posing for pictures with the same power structure he used to warn people about. Snoop tried to clap back at the criticism in his own way. He basically said, "Get your life right, stop worrying about mine, I'm good, I'm together, I'm still a black man, 100%. And that hit a nerve too, because to a lot of people, it felt like he was dodging the real question. Nobody's arguing about what he is on paper. Katt isn't asking if Snoop is still Snoop on his ID. He's asking if the voice that once spoke for the people is still really speaking for them or just speaking for the brands now. That's what has Katt so fired up. He feels like somewhere behind the fame, the endorsements, and all the polished media deals, the real Snoop disappeared.
Inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States of America, Snoop Dogg performed at the Crypto Ball. Now, Snoop Dogg He got the backlash because people are like, wait, this isn't the same Snoop from 2016 who had so much to say about the artist performance.
The raw, unfiltered, I'm with the people. Snoop got replaced by a smiling, media-trained version who plays the game perfectly and never rocks the boat too hard. And Katt is not the kind of person who just sits back and claps for that. In his world, you don't get to quietly rewrite who you are without somebody stepping up and calling it out. But to really understand why this warning cut as deep as it did, you've got to rewind to when Snoop was untouchable. Back then, Snoop wasn't just a rapper with hits on the radio, he was a whole movement. Even Katt, in his own way, has said it. Snoop opened doors for a whole generation. He took gangster culture and turned it into mainstream power. He made success look smooth, effortless, and cool. He was the living proof that a kid from Long Beach could become a worldwide icon without ever losing that West Coast flavor. In the early 2000s, Snoop Dogg was beyond question. He had survived the chaos of death row.
It's just really hilarious.
Snoop Dogg is funny,
He's doing all these things.
So ain't nobody gonna perform for Donald Trump, huh? Which one of you jigaboo gonna be the first one to do it? I'm waiting. I'm gonna roast the out one of you Uncle Tom for doing it. Which one of you
passed the traps that swallowed other artists and came out with his own empire. Everybody who mattered showed him respect. Jay-Z, Ice Cube, 50 Cent. If you were in hip-hop, you showed love to Snoop. He wasn't just the homie. He was the cool-headed OG, the uncle of the culture, the guy who could walk into any room and still feel like one of us. And he didn't just play that role behind the scene. He showed it out loud. There was that moment where he went off about politics during the government shutdown. He admitted he didn't know political sharp, but he knew enough to see how dangerous certain choices were. He spoke directly to the federal workers not getting paid, calling out how messed up the situation was. Then he pushed it even further. Ain't no way in the world y'all can vote for Donald Trump when he come back up again. If y'all do vote for him, y'all some stupid mothers and mother, and everybody already knew how he meant to finish that. That was raw Snoop. No script, no media training, just a man standing on what he believed, even if it cost him something. That's the Snoop people fell in love with, the one who stood against the system, not next to it, the one who made it clear he wasn't afraid to call out power when it was hurting his people. That's why for so long, nobody even thought to question his loyalty. He felt solid. He felt like one of the last ones who wouldn't fold no matter how bright the lights got. But in Katt's eyes, something shifted over time. That loud, fearless energy started to soften. The voice that once spoke recklessly for the streets started sounding more polished.
Of course, Snoop has responded to the backlash he received for performing for a Trump event. One of the things he pointed out was that we always stick together. We're good at tearing each other apart, which is pretty constant. It's pretty consistent when somebody gets into trouble. It takes backlash from the community. It's always a communal thing. It isn't any action they took. It is the fact that we can't stay together, that we can't stick together, that it's us always attacking us. But that flies in the face of the reality of what's happening right now. It is not us who are tearing down affirmative action. It is not us who is tearing down DEI. It is not us who are tearing families apart. It is not us who have decided that affirmative action and rollbacks that have been that had precedent for 50, 60 years are gone. It is not us that is doing it. It is, I think most people are disappointed because they saw you a specific way, and you have a right to kind of interpret and do whatever artistically you want to. No one's begrudging you that. But why the attack on the community because they disagree with something you did?
More careful, more approved. And that's when Katt says he started catching the warning sign, the little changes that tell you someone might not be playing on the same team anymore. Because in Katt's world, when the loudest voice of the people starts sounding more like a spokesperson for the system, that's not just a small adjustment, that's a full transformation. And he believes that somewhere between being the untouchable OG and the carefully packaged global brand, Snoop stepped over a line you can't just sneak back across. But Katt didn't just stop at calling it a change. He had a much colder way of explaining what he thinks really happened to Snoop. That's when Katt dropped one of the coldest lines people had heard in a long time. He said, when they can't control you, they cancel you, and when they can't cancel you, they recruit you. In his mind, that wasn't a cute bar for social media. That was the actual playbook. First, they try to shut you up. If that doesn't work, they try to buy you. And Katt is fully convinced that's exactly what went down with Snoop. He says the first real red flags popped up when major issues started shaking hip-hop, and Snoop's energy didn't match the moment. When artists were getting blackballed and pushed out, Snoop stayed quiet. When people began pulling the curtain back on the darker side of the industry, Snoop slid into the role of peacemaker. When exploitation came up, he suddenly didn't have as much to say. But when it was time for Hollywood parties, red carpets, celebrity galas, and award show selfies, there he was, front and center, suited up, smiling for the cameras like nothing in the world was wrong. Then came the move that really lit the internet on fire. After years of Snoop going off about Trump, calling anybody who rode with him stupid, making it crystal clear there was no way people should vote for that man, he pops up performing at an event tied to Trump's world, the crypto ball linked to the inauguration inauguration. The same guy who clowned the idea of rocking with that side was suddenly on stage in their orbit, and fans did not let that slide. Social media pulled out the receipts, old clips, everything. Side-by-side videos of his anti-Trump rants and his new appearance had the timelines going crazy. The Snoop who once said, "Ain't no way you can vote for this man," now looked like he was willing to be in the same building if the check cleared. Snoop tried to answer the backlash by flipping the angle. He said the real issue wasn't what he did, but how fast we are to tear each other down. He talked about how the community is always ready to attack its own whenever there's backlash, instead of standing together and seeing the bigger picture. He basically told people to stop worrying about his moves and get their own lives straight first, but Katt and a lot of folks watching heard something different. To them, it sounded like deflection, not accountability. They felt like that take ignored what was actually happening in real life. It's not the community tearing down programs, rolling back protections, and shredding people's future. Those moves are coming from systems and power structures that don't live where they live and don't feel what they feel. So when Snoop turns around and says the problem is us attacking us, people like Katt feel like that completely skips over who's actually pulling the strings in the background. That's where Katt draws a hard line. In his mind, you can't claim to be for the people while standing shoulder to shoulder with the puppeteer. You can't call yourself the voice of the streets while comfortably sitting next to the machine that's grinding those same streets down. To him, that's not unity, that's camouflage. And the wild part, this isn't even the first time Snoop's loyalty has had a question mark put on it. Back in those death row days, nobody would have even imagined questioning Snoop's loyalty. He was ride or die for the label, for Pac, for the whole West Coast movement. He moved like the ultimate soldier for the brand and for the coast. One of the loudest, clearest voices standing next to Suge, repping that red logo like it was stamped on his DNA. If you were talking about the West, you were talking about Snoop. That's how deep it ran. But after Pac was gone and the chaos around Suge Knight started boiling over, something shifted. Snoop began putting distance between himself and that world. He dipped from death row, switched up his alliances, found new bosses, and slowly slid deeper into the corporate and entertainment side of the game. For some people, that move was pure survival, a man choosing life, safety, and business over going down with a sinking ship. For others, it looked like the first time Snoop learned how to change jerseys when the pressure got too real. And that, in Katt's eyes, is the blueprint he's seeing again, just on a bigger, more dangerous stage. Back then it was labels and street beefs. Now it's politics, power, and the whole machine behind the culture. The faces look different, but the pattern feels the same. When the room gets too hot, Snoop doesn't flip the table. He finds another room. Once Katt's words hit the internet, it didn't stay a quiet disagreement between two legends. It turned into a full-on culture debate, and the whole internet split right down the middle. On one side, you've got people saying Katt is just hating, bitter, jealous, and mad at anybody who figured out how to get rich without going to war with every network and studio. To them, Snoop is doing exactly what a smart man is supposed to do: evolve, adapt, and stay alive in a rigged system. After cases, label drama, beef, and chaos, they feel like he earned the right to shake those hands, sit at those tables, and cash those checks. But on the other side, you've got folks riding with Katt all the way. They swear he's the only one with enough backbone left to say out loud what everybody's been whispering for years. They point to Snoop doing family shows, political events, endless brand deals, and standing next to the same machine he once raged against and say, that's exactly what Katt is talking about. In their eyes, Snoop's been playing both sides for a while now, preaching realness while living corporate, talking loyalty while moving with whoever signs the biggest number at the bottom of the contract. And that's why this whole thing feels way bigger than just Katt versus Snoop. It's turned into a question about what happens when fame and authenticity collide. Snoop represents survival. The man who made it out, stayed relevant for decades, and turned his name into an empire. Proof that you can come from nothing and still end up in the biggest rooms on the planet. Katt represents rebellion. The man who would rather blow the room up than sit there quiet and comfortable. Proof that telling the truth might cost you everything and doing it anyway. So now you've got two paths crashing into each other. Play the game or expose the game. One path keeps you booked, safe and loved by corporations. The other path keeps you dangerous, unpredictable, and often broke. And Katt is basically saying that Snoop went from being the one who exposed the game to being one of the pieces helping keep it running. That's why he didn't call this just a disagreement. He called it a last warning. That's why Katt calling this a last warning hit so different. He's not just saying, yo, I don't like that move you made. In his mind, it's way deeper than one performance or one bad op. He's talking like a man who believes Snoop has gone so far into that system that there's no clean way to walk back out. It's not you slipped up, it's you crossed over. The Katt, this isn't old beef jealousy or some bitter comic taking shots at a richer rapper. It's about watching somebody who used to stand on the front line for the people slowly slide behind the curtain and get comfortable with the very machine he used to bark at. And what makes that sting even more is the fact that Katt and Snoop didn't start out on opposite sides at all. They came up under the same coast, same culture, same energy, just in different lanes. Snoop ran hip-hop, Katt ran comedy, but they were both stamped by the streets and loved by the same crowd. In the 2000s, the chemistry was smooth. Snoop showed Katt love. Katt showed Snoop respect. They popped up on radio together, shared laughs in interviews, showed up in each other's spaces like like two dudes who understood exactly what the other represented. Over time, though, Katt says he started to notice the split while he was out here calling Hollywood's bluff, dropping names like Steve Harvey, Cedric, D.L. Hewley, and breaking down how the whole game really moves. Snoop wasn't chiming in. No real public stance, no loud agreement. And what really bothered Katt was seeing Snoop smiling in photos with the same people he was exposing. To Katt, that didn't look neutral. That looked like choosing a side, and it wasn't the side he was on. No matter which side of this debate you fall on, one thing nobody can deny is how deep Snoop's name is carved into the culture. He's been everything: gangster icon, businessman, peacemaker, TV host, sports commentator, mogul. He helped build West Coast rap from the ground up, mentored younger artists, opened doors, and poured into his community in ways most of the public never even hears about. Out of all the rappers from his era, he's one of the few who seem to age gracefully. No total meltdown, no disappearing act, no long stretch where he fell off. But in an industry powered by chaos, that kind of calm starts to look when everybody else is crashing out, losing deals, getting shoved out of the spotlight, and one man somehow always lands on his feet. People start to wonder what deals got cut behind closed doors, and that's exactly where Katt comes in like a lightning strike. If Snoop is the calm before the camera, Katt is pure voltage, loud, raw, unpredictable, and blunt. He doesn't trust calm. He doesn't trust quiet. When he looks at Snoop's permanent composure, he doesn't see peace. He sees somebody who made peace with the system. He sees compliance dressed up as maturity. And for Katt, that's the part he just can't let slide. That's why this whole situation doesn't feel finished at all. When Katt says last warning, he's not talking like a man who's bluffing for views. He's talking like somebody who's fully ready to go even deeper if he has to. If Snoop even hints at clapping back, you already know Katt is the type to come 10 times harder, naming more names, telling more stories, and shaking the whole industry all over again. This isn't the kind of celebrity disagreement people scroll past and forget by tomorrow. It feels like a straight-up collision between truth and tolerance, between the rebel and the ruler, between the guy who exposes the game and the guy who learned how to play it better than almost anybody else. Because at the end of the day, these aren't two random dudes arguing on the internet. These are two legends who started out on the same side of the fence, both real, both stamped, both changing the culture in their own lane. Snoop represents the dream, the kid from Long Beach who made it out, stayed smart, and turned his name into a global machine. Katt represents the crowd, raw, unfiltered, and willing to burn a bridge before he lets anybody walk over his principle. Both of them started real. Both of them changed the game. But in Katt's eyes, only one of them refused to bend, no matter how hard the wind started blowing. And that's where the real question lands, the one nobody can dodge with a joke or a sponsorship. It's not about who's richer, who's more famous, or who's stacked more trophies on the shelf. It's about who's still standing on their truth when the lights cut off and the cameras stop rolling. No matter how many deals Snoop signs or how many shows he hosts, Katt is looking at him like, are you still that dog from Long Beach or just another piece on their board now? That question doesn't disappear just because a new commercial drops. It just hangs there, heavier every time Snoop stands next to power and stays quiet. So what happens next? Maybe Snoop says nothing, and that silence speaks louder than any statement. Maybe he responds, and this explodes into a much uglier, much bigger conversation about who's really calling the shots behind closed doors. In this industry, silence can say more than a whole press conference, and one response can flip the whole narrative on its head. Either way, this moment says a lot about where the culture is right now. Are we riding with the ones who survive by playing along, or with the ones who risk it all by speaking out? Did Snoop really slide into being a political dog, or is Katt just tired of being the only one swinging at a system everybody else quietly works for? You tell me. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Katt Williams right about Snoop turning into a trained, polished political mascot, or is Snoop just doing what he has to do to keep winning in a game that's already rigged? Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive, because with everything building up around this story, it really feels like we're only seeing the first round.